I want to grow old at Wrigley. I
Amen.
do. Like
Amen.
that's
Let's
where
go.
I want to end up, right? But I will share everything I know with anyone who will ever ask.
That's beautiful.
You know, I did that from the start of my career because when I started, I didn't have anybody willing to teach me. Everyone was willing to knock me down, right? They didn't want the young kid to come up, and it's happened throughout my career.
Big worm, gotta let them know it be that CHICAG.
How's it going? This is Miguel Esparza, the Spanish voice of the Chicago Cubs, Bulls, and Blackhawks, and you're with Mike Talk.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Mike Talk. I am your host, Michael Gutierrez, and this is interview number 2 with today's guest, man. But I needed to get this interview in there again, man, because there's some amazing stories that you got to tell us.
I appreciate you.
Miguel Esparza, right?
Yes, sir.
The
Thank you.
Latino, our Spanish announcer for the Cubbies, for the Blackhawks, and for the Bulls. And so we're excited for all 3 teams.
Yes,
we're excited about the Bears too, right? But me and you, we bleed Cubby blue.
Right. That's what it is.
We
It's
bleed
the
Cubby
truth.
blue.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely.
It's a pleasure.
I'm so happy that you were able to get back on
Even
today.
though it's 7 in the morning and I'm here. No, I'm kidding.
But you're still getting home from the club,
I
bro.
know,
You haven't
I
even
know.
gone home yet.
Barely.
Crowbar.
No, clubs in my life are non-existent.
Bro,
No.
I don't even go to the health club.
Yeah, right. You best believe I don't.
My gym is 50 feet from my kitchen in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I have a little setup there.
What is? I'm sorry.
My
what
little
is
gym?
that word that you used?
I know.
I don't know what that is.
it's a little room.
I passed
there
by
with
this play one
weights.
time where these people were like running or doing. I guess that's what you're talking about right now.
Okay. Why is he sweating?
Yeah.
and
I was
running
like, what's
that?
going on
He's
here?
running in
Why
place.
aren't they eating?
He's
Like,
not going anywhere. No, hey, that is true,
Hey,
man.
man.
It's like for me, it's like I try to eat, man, as much as I can, and it's just so hard to gain weight for me. It's so difficult, man. It's so.
Where am I looking?
Yeah,
Here
no.
or there? This guy. Look at this guy. Come on.
No, I'm just.
He's trying to gain weight. I've been for the past 20 years trying to lose weight.
And I'm over here offering you pan largo.
Yeah. Pan largo con jamón, queso, café. I'll take for sure.
With no creamer, salud.
No creamer, no sugar. Coffee's meant to be drank black. So there you go.
You know what? I gotta start drinking some of that black coffee because there's some new coffee that's going around too. The mushroom stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not-
I just bought that actually.
I haven't
tasted it yet. I just bought it.
Let me know. It's
I will.
It's gonna be tough to.
They told me if you drink this, you don't have to go to the gym.
That's and then if I drink it, I'll gain weight. I get muscles.
Yeah, there you go.
Miguel, man, there's
Yeah.
so much that we got to catch up on. But
Yes, sir.
before we talk about sports, I mean, I want to talk about you, man,
Yeah.
because you are a product of Chicago, not
Yes,
just
sir.
Chicago, but Humboldt Park, and not just Boricua, but you're also Mexican, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
give us a little context as far as like how you got to be where you're at today, coming out of Humboldt, right? Like
Hard work. Hard
I
work.
know.
You know, when you really want to get something done, it's tough because when you're young, you don't really understand what needs to be done. But somewhere in your brain, you're like, okay, maybe if I do it this way, it'll work out kind of deal. But I say, listen, if I knew what I know now, and I think everybody says that, I would take over the world, man. You know, and that's why we don't know what we know when we're young, right?
That's
because
interesting.
at the end of the day, you look back and I think if I would have done this way, I would have had this result, right? And I would have been able to do this. However, I have no regrets in my life.
Yeah.
I've learned to live without any regrets, whether it's personal or in my career. I feel that everything that I've gone through, whether it's been success or struggles, have made me the man that I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. I'm blessed to be where I'm at.
Amen.
Like you mentioned, Humboldt Park area, I grew up literally on. So my first the home that I remember was on California in Cortland.
Sure.
That house burned down December 3rd. I don't remember the year, but I remember the date.
A liquor store
and it was
ran a
terrible.
corner.
Yeah.
Entire shop across the street still
right,
there.
Right, it is there. It's there.
Still there.
So for me, from there we moved to Pulaski in Cortland, then Division in Hamlin. So it was always within that area.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's a tough neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And
Division
pressure
in
of
Hamlin,
everything.
too,
Yeah,
yeah.
Division in Hamlin.
That was probably
tough.
the roughest
Like, that was
from those
rough.
3 locations. Yeah.
If, once it heated up. It was like you had to make sure that you were looking everywhere and
You
making
weren't
sure
caught in the crossfire. Yeah.
Because that was just, I remember one time my grandparents lived on the first floor, cousins, second floor, us on the third floor. We had a whole unit, whole building. And it was a summer, grandma sitting outside, cousins outside. I went upstairs to use the restroom. And while I'm there, I hear gunshots. And I'm like, man, I run into the bathroom. And when I go downstairs, like they literally, the bullets bounced in front of my grandma. The guys came and hid the gun behind my grandma.
What?
Like, yeah, it was one of those.
They hid the gun behind your grandma?
Yeah. She was sitting there and they just put it right behind her. So
they'll never look behind the old lady.
No. So, it was one of those where I used to love playing basketball growing up. I had a basketball hoop in the back of my house and all the neighborhood came and played. But we had to pause because cars are driving by to get their drugs, right? And it was like a drive-through. So it was very tough
to not get
exactly.
Because you know that.
And it's my parents. My parents, they taught us the right way and to be able to not let any of that distract you and to tell you that I was a great student. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I wasn't one to say I want to live that kind of life, right? And again, just being able to stay away from it. And my siblings, well, I have two, at that time, it was two sisters. Then we got a little brother.
What school did you go to?
I went to Wells High School.
Wells.
Yeah, Wells.
Ashland.
So, yeah. So it was a straight shot, take division.
Sure.
Ashland,
no Clemente.
No. So here's the thing.
You moved.
Yeah. So when we were on the bus coming division, and when you got to Clemente, like when they would be like, let's see who came from Wells to try to mess with you, right?
Yeah,
and so it was one of those where you also had to just be careful what you did, what you said, how you moved, all that. It was always for sure. And a lot of people don't understand what the reality is of where we grew up, right? But again, going back to that, it was just a matter of staying away from any of that. Basketball helped me a lot just to focus on wanting to play. I never dreamt about playing in the NBA, none of that.
You didn't want to be in the NBA?
No, it was, for me, it was just that time of spending time outside, and just, just having a good time, right?
No, for sure, yeah.
Growing up, I had no clue.
That,
I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. None. I didn't want to be an NBA player. I never said, I want to be a broadcaster.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to sing. I wanted to sing. That was my thing. I said, listen, I want to perform for the rest of my life. And it was at 12 years old when I really was able to go into that wanting to sing. And my uncles all played the guitar, las parrandas in Puerto Rico. You would see that, and I was like, man, I want to play the guitar, right? And I met this band, famous Mexican band, Banda Machos. I met them when I was 12 because a friend of my father's, his brother-in-law, his sister-in-law was married to one of the guys from Banda Machos.
Interesting.
So we got to meet him, and we actually created a real good relationship where it was like kind of family with him.
Yeah.
So when I first saw them perform live, I was like, man, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. Because they took me backstage. They treated me like VIP, and I was like,
nice.
I want to do this, right?
Yeah.
So I started learning how to play the guitar on my own. When I got into high school, I went into band because I was like, let me be ready just in case they ever need me,
Interesting. You were proactive.
Yeah, I was like, I got to be ready, right? And I learned how to play trombone and tuba.
You got to be ready.
Yes, you got to be ready. So for me, that was one of those things that's what I wanted to do. And so later on in my life, I was like, well, I got to figure out a way to do this, right? How am I gonna become a singer?
Yeah.
And I never
there was no Voice at that time. It was American Idol.
No, none of that. But again, for me, that's what I wanted to do. Now with my life and I knew for a fact that I didn't want to go to college.
Yeah.
I knew that 100%. I knew that once I was done with high school, I was done. And when kids, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but kids, they have always, I guess, the system and everything is like, you have to go to school and you got to go to college. And
that will make you a good person.
Right. And you have that encrusted in your mind. And that's a pressure that everyone has. Right. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't a thing. For me, it was like, I knew for a fact that I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
No plan. Yeah. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But I knew that at some point I was going to figure it out. My sister Daisy is the smart one in the house. master's degree in forensic psychology. She did all the all that going to
that
school.
That must be super cool.
Yeah. She's she has a good life and but for me it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That's just how it was.
Yeah. No, it's I didn't graduate high school. In fact, I got kicked out of high school, and then ended up going to get my good old GED. Good old GED, and then ended up going to college for a little bit. So I get it. It's like you kind of you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you want to do, but you definitely need to be ready. Like, okay, let me at least get my GED. Let me at least get some college credits, right? Because I mean, you're going into society,
and you have that pressure, and for me, I always say college is not for everyone.
That's right.
Right, college isn't for everyone. I think that you have to find what it is that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Like there was a point in my life where I really understood that life is we should all be in that pursuit of happiness, and it came from the movie Will Smith. The Pursuit
Will
of
Smith
Happiness.
movie. Yeah.
When I saw that, it really clicked for me, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be happy, and I could say that today, I am not the wealthiest person. I'm nowhere near being wealthy.
Sure.
I live enough to be able to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at in my life.
Yeah. And that's, praise God for that, because it's like you go through, sometimes you feel like it's more bad times than good times.
Oh yeah.
Right. But if you acknowledge those things, and you acknowledging is number one, I always say, right? Acknowledging, and then
for sure.
And then you're able to acknowledge and then move forward from that and learn from it, right? And so whether that's a mistake or whether that's something good that happened, we can acknowledge something that good and then not stay there. Like let's progress from there. How can I make this better now? How can I? So and that's what leads me to you're now okay. I don't know what I want to do. I want to sing, but I don't want to go to school. How the heck did you end up on our radio stations for every game? I know. Miguel is on every game now.
Man, it's a blessing. I tell you, God does amazing things, and God knows where to put you. And for me, that's the only answer that I got that I have is God. That's it. That's because there's no other. You think about it, even past weekend, I was at Cubs convention standing next to Sammy Sosa.
I want to talk to you about that.
And I'm like, I'm standing there as I'm standing next to this man. I'm like, how is it that
we watched him hit bombas?
Yeah, man. Like, so for me, it's been that, right? It's been God. He's been amazing in my life, and awesome, so for me, that's very important. However, that process, right, of getting to that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue. I worked at, I don't know if you remember this restaurant on Grand and Ogden. It was Italian beef joint.
Yeah.
No longer there. Best Italian beef I ever had, La Rock's. And so when La Rock's. Yeah. Wow. I worked there. When my uncles came from Mexico, they worked there. So it was funny that I got to work at that restaurant, and Mike was amazing, an amazing owner, and he was an amazing guy to work for. So while I was there, I would see Norm Van Leer come in.
Yeah,
Chris
boy,
Chelios,
Norman.
Yeah. So you'd see them all come in, and I was like, that's pretty cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
but
because
still,
they were by the stadium.
Yeah. So and it was the best
Italian beef.
It was the best beef, I'll tell you.
I'm gonna have one tonight.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So for me, it was a process of going through a car wash, a restaurant. My father bought a little grocery store, so I was working the grocery store. So I was trying to figure out where I was going to end up.
How old were you around this time, bro?
That was already, I was 18.
Okay.
18,
okay.
19.
Yeah. Now you're getting to
I was out of high school. Well, I was still in high school. I was working there. My dad's a mechanic by trade, so learning a little bit of mechanics. So I know my way around the car.
You could change the oil.
Yeah. I could do anything, honestly, because my dad.
That's great,
my dad's amazing. My dad knows everything and anything about everything.
Yeah,
so it's been learning from him. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little bit older now. I'm 19, right? Sure. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, where am I going to go? 19 going into 20, I'm like, I need to figure this out already, right?
Yeesh.
So I'm watching late night TV, and commercial comes on for a broadcasting school. And I said, why not? Let's try this. So I go and plug my phone, connect the internet router, and connect to the internet. Yeah, people don't know about that. You couldn't get a call if you were connected to the internet.
Bro,
Yeah, man.
that was wow, AOL.
Yeah, for sure. You got mail. And then at the
we just dated ourselves.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen. Being old for me is being wise.
Hey,
and
for
that's
sure.
yeah, that's where we're at, right?
That's right.
So I log on. It was late at night. Again, it was one of those late night commercials, and I filled out a form they had. Next day, they call me, and they're like, would you like to come in and see the campus? It was in Lombard. Cool. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I told my dad, hey, would you mind? No, yeah, my dad, my mom, they've been amazing. They've been such, and we talk about our parents, and we always say thanks to mom and dad, but when you really look back, yes, they brought you up and everything, but that extra, I was horrible waking up. My father, man, yo le saqué ganas a mi papá, like, because,
oye, mira, levántate.
Yeah, man, and I would
was
not
your dad
up.
Mexican or Puerto Rican?
Mexican, my dad's
so
Mexican,
your dad,
so yeah.
Vámonos,
no, but he was, no, he was very patient. And that's
really?
Yeah, and that's the thing, I was a little shit, excuse my language, and I wouldn't wake up, I wouldn't, and that went on throughout, high school. So again, I recognize what they did for me, and they still do to this day.
But you woke up early today.
Yeah, of course. Because now I'm 43 years old. Like now I've learned.
Now you can't even sleep past 6 a.m.
No, I do. I'm not. So there was a period in my life where I was doing morning shows on the radio.
Ooh, right.
And you're waking up at 3:30 in the morning, or 3 to be at the station at 3:30, depending where you live. And so yeah, I no longer do mornings. I can sleep.
That's rough.
Yeah. So that next day, I get I told my dad, let's go. Takes me over to Lombard. They give me a tour of the campus. It's hands on. There's it's pretty much, we're going to teach you radio and TV and they have you record a commercial. The sales guy there was great because he was like, you have a great voice. I didn't have a great voice.
You didn't?
I didn't have. I was young. I was. What voice are you going to have at 20?
But dude already spotted it.
I don't know. I think it was more of a sales pitch.
See you through it.
Yeah, no, it was a sales pitch. It was definitely, you're going to do great things in radio. And I was like, man, maybe I am, right? Let's sign up here. Yeah. So right then and there, we went to my dad again, there with me every step of the way.
Él fue contigo.
Yeah. He was there with me, and signed up and start. The class had already started in January, so I started in February. They were like, we can still get you in there if you want. All right, let's go. So I get in there with a mentality of, this was my mentality, which was a very stupid mentality, was I want to be on air. That's it. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to learn how to write a commercial. I don't want to learn how to record it, produce it. I don't want none of it. I'm going to be on-air talent. Stupid mentality. And so I went there, and from there, the most important thing that I got from that school was a list of radio stations with fax numbers on there. And people's names, contacts. A fax is a thing. Here you go for all the young ones out there.
Yeah.
It's this machine like a printer.
Yeah.
You would send messages through that.
Piece of paper, just like a printer, and then you put the phone number, and then you press send, and then it goes.
Then you had to wait for the confirmation. Yeah. And you had to send a cover letter with that fax.
And then that thing goes through.
Yeah.
Like, wait 10 minutes for that. Yeah, wow.
Now technology,
Innovation.
Right? Isn't it a thing of
now
beauty?
It's just send it from your phone.
Yeah, for sure. So I sent a fax.
You sent the fax.
Yeah, I sent a fax to the station that I wanted to work at because I loved that station. It was my station, and I was like, I want to work. I only want to do my internship there. I don't want to do it anywhere else.
Okay.
And I sent one. I didn't get a reply. I sent another. I didn't get a reply. I was calling.
You were like, hey, is your fax working?
Yeah. I was calling and following up like they tell you got to follow up. And so here I am following up. Nothing. No one's answering the phone. And the third one, here's the crazy Miguel. I'm talking to the fax, and I'm like, listen, if you don't give me a response this time, I'm sending you to another station that we don't want to go to.
and he paid attention.
Yeah, he did.
And it went through.
It went through for that third one. I actually got a call back for it.
Awesome.
And they were like, can you come into an interview? When can you come in? I said, well, if you need me now, I'll go now. It was a Friday.
That's how I respond.
Friday, I went. Friday, got there in the afternoon, like around 3:00. And we interviewed. When can you start? When do you need me? Can you do work tomorrow? I said, yes. And that was it. I started there, and that was in April of 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
By I graduated October of 2001. In August of 2001, I was already hired as a board operator
awesome,
there.
Bro.
Yeah. So it was a long process of a lot of things, but it all worked out in a matter of months.
I always wanted to do that. I actually went not once but twice. I actually was just there.
Yeah.
I would say about 8 months ago, and I was close to enrolling because I love that.
Yeah.
I love doing it, and I'm a realtor. I'm there. I'm all over the place, and I didn't do it, and I hate it because every month that goes by, and I follow them, and because I know a lot of people that come out of that school, very successful. They get good jobs, and they're out there and they're doing it.
They have a good program.
They have a good program.
They
How's
do.
the leadership? Good.
At the time when I was there, it was good. I don't know now, but I'll tell you this, and it's not to discredit them in any way. 90% of me being in radio is me, and that's just it goes back to mentality, right? Where you want to be, what you want to do, how good do you want to be, right?
It's good.
So when I went in with that stupid mentality of I just want to do on air
small-minded
work, that was very small-minded. So for me, once I actually got to the radio station, I started as a promotions intern, and I was like, okay, so let me take over this department, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. And in my mind, I figured out right away that I had to be good at every department. So I started learning everything. Good. So I started learning. Yeah,
you're speaking to me right now, bro.
Man, hey, listen, you if I can inspire one person today,
you're doing it.
I'm having a great day. So for me, that was it. It was just a matter of learning everything and anything that revolved around radio to make it hard for them to say, well, Miguel can't stay here, or let's get rid of Miguel, for whatever reason it may be. And I went to the point of learning the engineering side of it with Bill Murdoch, who's the engineer now at WGN. Bill was amazing. He was teaching me. He was because he saw that I wanted to learn.
Yeah. And
in promotions, I learned.
Mentors love mentees that way.
Yeah. And in promotions, they saw that I was, to this day, when I've worked in radio stations, and I go out to do a remote, you'll see me, and you won't see this from a lot of on-air talent. Well, a very small percentage.
So seldom, yeah.
I help pick up after. I'll wait and I'll help the guys because
serving, bro.
Because that was me, right? That's where I started. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that little hand, it helped. It goes a long way because at the end of the day, they want to get home too, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm done.
Okay, I'm done with my check. I gotta go.
But
you're part of the team.
Right, exactly. And for me, that was my department. Promotions was the first taste of it. Then I moved on as a board operator, then as an on-air talent, and then as a morning show producer, morning show host, morning show co-host, and morning show host.
When did they recognize that? Like, man, this guy doesn't belong on the board. He belongs in front of the microphone.
Again, it's creating opportunities.
Yeah.
You create your own path. And that's what I did.
Good. No.
I listen, hard. I don't know where I got that. I don't know how I figured that out, but I did. That I had to create my own opportunities. And to this day, I do that. So I was a board operator. So I was promotions intern. My internship is done after 3 months. And I'm like, man, I'm not done here yet. I don't want to leave. Arturo Jaramillo he was the one that oversaw my internship at the time there. And I said, Arturo, is there a way that I can stay? And I said, you don't have to fill out any hours for me. You don't have to pay me. I just want to stay because I'm my foot's in the door and I don't want to get it out of the door yet. I'm not ready.
Love that.
Yeah. So he let me stay, which, to this day I appreciate. And to this day, we're friends. Arturo Jaramillo is a good friend of mine. And when we, I look back and I'm like, man, that was such a crucial part of where I am today, because he could have easily said, no, we can't do it. Our policy says we can't. He let me stay.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, next move. What am I going to do with this extra stay that I have here? How am I going to take advantage? So about, a month after that, I mustered up the courage to talk to the program director. And she was an amazing program director. amazing leader, but I was afraid of her.
She's intimidating.
She's very, very intimidating. So I was like, but I have to muster up the courage and I have to go. And so one day I was like, this is it. This is the day. Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you. I was like, this is the day that I'm going to go.
I'm slamming
man.
Tequilazo before I go.
That walk to her office.
It was like a movie.
Man, I'm shaking. I'm nervous.
Anxiety.
Yeah. And I was like, but I got to do it, right? So I knock on her door and she's like, come in. And I said, hola, mi nombre es. She's like, yo sé quién eres. I know who you are. I've seen your work. I see the work that you do. What's up? So she was, and this is teaching moment.
Bro.
You never know who's looking at what you're doing, and that's why you always have to carry yourself in the right way and make that impact without looking for a reward, right?
True.
That's not the goal at all, but carry yourself in the right way,
Amen.
right? And she saw that. She saw that I was a hard worker. And I said, I'm looking for an opportunity within the programming department. Is there anything that you have available?
Put me on at 3 a.m. I don't care.
She was like, well, I actually have an opportunity for a board operator overnights on weekends. Are you interested? I said,
that's the
yes.
worst.
Oh, no. For me, that was
I
yes.
know, I'm the same, but if they tell you that today.
Overnights, weekends.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's
when can I
rough.
start?
That's a sacrifice right there.
Man.
Bro.
I was like,
but that was a blessing and gift right
goodness.
there. Let's go.
Yes. So I get hired as a board operator on the pro. So I get hired. I'm no longer an intern. So it's now I got to go get some training. Got a couple of weeks, like 2 weekends. I trained 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift with good friends of mine as well. Their names on the radio at the time were Las Muñequitas.
Okay, yeah.
And so they trained me, and then I went with another guy, El Plebe. He trained me as well.
I remember El Plebe.
Yeah. So after a while, I'm ready. Okay, so I'm going to go board op. I'm board operating, which is technically I'm babysitting the computer, making sure the music goes.
Yeah, because I was like, what does board operating mean?
Yeah. Make sure the commercials are running correctly, and I got to mark them down. I got to sign the commercial log, make sure that everything ran. So after that, I was like, okay, my next step is going on air. How am I going to accomplish this? What am I going to do to get on air? So the girls, Karina and Veronica, they called off for a weekend. And Margarita Vasquez, who was the program director, she says, Miguel, can you cover the morning shift? I said, yes, absolutely. So once I'm there, she called. I don't remember if she called or I called, but it was, she calls or I call, whatever. We spoke and I said, hey, is there a way that I can go on air and say weather, time? I sold it to her. I was like, people are out and about. They want to know the weather.
You're thinking creative.
Yeah. And she was like, no, I can't put you on air. She's like, I don't know what you sound like. I can't just throw you on air.
Sure.
And I was like, I won't let you down. Just let me give me that opportunity. Okay. Go ahead. Entra, te voy a escuchar. Man, when she said te voy a escuchar, I was like, I'm shaking in my boots, right? And I'm like, okay, but that's my shot, and I have to take it.
Jeez.
So I go on air. I'm literally, once I turn off the microphone, I fall to the chair because my legs, I can't stand anymore. I'm like, I'm on air. Number one station in Chicago at the time. And this is me. I'm
what time was this? What day? Saturday morning?
Saturday morning.
Bad, but people are doing compras though, bro.
Absolutely.
You better nail this.
Absolutely. And as soon as I sit down at the radio stations, we have the hotline, which is where the boss calls, and it doesn't ring, it flashes. So I see that flash and I'm like, oh man, that's it. My career's over. And it just started.
But you spoke.
Oh, yeah. I went on air.
So what did you say? But what was it? Weather?
It was basically time, weather, and this is the song coming up. It was a very, very short. You want me to do it? Yeah. At the time, it was on La Ley. So it was aquí manda La Ley 107.9, 10 de la mañana con 10 minutos, temperatura en Chicago 32 grados. Aquí viene Pancho Barraza, mi enemigo el amor, en La Ley 107.9.
You're hired now. You are so hired. Is that what he said?
Thank you. Well, she calls me, and when I see that flashing, like, you think about movies and TV shows and you're like a whole half hour passed between that flashing and me picking up the phone, right? So I pick up the phone and she's like, you sound great. continue the rest of the shift. That was it. I never looked back. Never looked back.
Wow.
After that,
you were like, I want a raise. I want a raise.
So I was still doing board ops overnight, but after, I don't know, maybe a month or so, I was moved to that 6 to 12 shift on weekends. And from there, one day she's like, Miguel, do you know how to do production? I said, yeah, I do. She's like, I've asked around.
What's that? Then what would that look like for?
Well, first of all, I asked around. She's like, I asked around and they told me you don't know how to do production.
Oh, boy.
Because in this industry, everyone wants to knock you down and make sure that you don't go above them, right?
Interesting.
And I see this young kid who's hungry. I was 20 years old. I was
gonna take my job.
20. Yeah, well, absolutely. And that I did.
Interesting. No, man, but they
production. So
way.
production is basically either producing promos. You got to write those promos.
Sure.
You know, the production entails a lot. Like, for example, for a morning show, create jokes, like acted jokes
for the morning
morning show, and you write them, you
ideas.
Act them. Yeah,
so
ideas.
it's like so that's when they do like those prank calls.
Yeah,
someone like Miguel creates those together.
Yeah, create the script for them, create
who to call.
Yep, everything. So it was one of those like. But production and the editing audio aspect of it, she was like, do you know how to do that? I said, yeah. And when she said, oh, you know, I've been told that you don't know how to do that.
Oh, bro, I would have been like, yo.
I said, hold my beer. I said, I had a CD in my pocket that I had just produced an intro for Banda Machos, my friends,
sure.
which they used in Mexico. They played that intro for their concerts.
What a time.
And I had it in my pocket. So I pull it out and I said, yeah, she puts it in. She's listening. She's like, you did this? I said, yeah, I voiced it. I produced it. And okay, about a week or two, she's like, Miguel, I have a job for you. Would you like to be the morning show producer? Absolutely. So I was moved to mornings there, and I was producing all their segments, like all that behind the scenes stuff, getting new music beds and again, creating jokes, acted out jokes and stuff, different voices, you know. So it's one of those that
was Spanish.
That was Spanish.
So those were funny because
creative.
So I remember driving, like whether it's to an appointment or whatever, and then you're switching channels, and then you catch a prank call in Spanish on LA.
Yeah. We had them all, and that was me producing a lot of that. If it was within that time frame, obviously.
Interesting.
I would do. Have you ever heard of Chabelo?
Sure.
Okay, so
mis queridos cuates, estamos aquí con ustedes, cuates, para invitarles a que escuchen.
And I would do like all different, you know.
Un aplauso, cuates, un aplauso.
So good.
You know, so it was just getting that creative part out, right? And so it was a very good run. And at that time, we were number one morning show, regardless of language.
So you were
in Chicago.
What?
Yeah. It was. La Ley was on top, man. La Ley was the best station in Chicago.
I remember La Ley because
man.
because remember when we were growing up, it was the Que Buena. And then La Ley just smoked them.
Oh, yeah.
It was 105.1 and then 107.
Yeah.
Then La Ley just said,
so that's why I wanted to send my fax to La Ley. I was like, I don't want to go to Que Buena. Like, I don't like Que Buena. I like La Ley.
Que Buena was more like our parents.
It was.
Right?
It was because, again, their history.
The generation.
They were like WJO. That's when Carlito Rojas was there. Like, you think about that was like Batman y Robin.
I remember that.
So that was our station at the time. That's what we listened to with our parents. But when
that
La
was
Ley
our
came
only
out,
option.
yeah. And when La Ley came out, it was like, dude, I like this.
And they were more hip for us that were younger. The music was better. Yeah, they definitely hit their mark.
The promo that got me was one that said, "Hasta las aguas del lago Michigan están temblando."
Yeah,
porque llegó la nueva La Ley, and I was like, dude, this is good. You know,
yeah,
I like it. I like it.
So good.
Yeah. So for me, that's why I wanted to work at that radio station, and I didn't want to work at Que Buena. I didn't want to work anywhere else.
How long were you there?
My first stint, I was there for about 10 years.
Wow.
And that was because, again, I knew how to do everything. You know, I knew how to do production. I knew how to do on air. I knew how to do production.
You were so valuable there, bro.
Yeah.
You could fit anywhere. That's a utility.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I worked every shift. I worked 10 to, I didn't have an actual 10 to 3, but I worked morning show. I worked at 3 to 7. I worked at 7 to 12. I worked at 12 to 5. I did them all. I did all those shows throughout that time period. But for the most part, it was all morning shows. My second stint, I started again weekends, but also I said when I walked into that interview, and it was an informal interview.
Yeah, I was gonna say because at that time it's like, yeah, come on and talk to us.
Yeah, exacto. But I walked in there and I and this is another teaching moment for those that are looking for jobs at this time. You know,
that's me.
When you're looking for those opportunities, yeah, you let that person who is interviewing you let them know what it is that you want.
Yes.
You know, if they see that you know what you're looking for, like that's it. It's gonna stay in the back of their heads. So what I told them when they brought me back, this was in 2014. I said I want to do the morning show. I want to be the morning show host. And I want to be the Spanish voice of the Chicago Bears because Lale had them at the time. I said, I'm not saying that these positions are open, nor am I saying if you don't give me this, I won't come back.
You planted the seed.
Right, of course. But I planted that seed. 3 months later, I was the morning show host and I was the voice of the Bears.
Man, praise God.
Yeah, man. And it's
dog.
You go back to planting that seed, right? You got to put that in there. You got to let them know what it is that you're looking for. So that was kind of like, you create those opportunities for yourself.
We're going to plant the seed now, guys. We're going to plant the seed.
Plant the seed. What is it?
Miguel and Mike covering us. Vamos a ver abajo que ahí está Mike en el field. Aquí con Sammy Sosa. Sammy, gracias por estar con nosotros, man. Ya era tiempo que tú estás con nosotros. Mira, te hacemos... Well, my Spanish is horrible.
Okay, so let's plant the seed of getting Spanish better.
No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because
it goes back to what it is that you want. Right. It goes back to what do you want? Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like, again, going back to my parents made sure that we learned how to speak Spanish first.
Correctly, too.
And then it was, all right, let's teach them, let's put them in English, right? Which was bilingual at the time.
Sure.
And then you
if
start.
they want a Spanglish guy on the
Yeah.
I can do that.
Or you can say, I'm going to make it a goal of mine this year to get my Spanish better, you know? And that those are little things that at the end of the day that you look for what it is that you want and how are you going to make that happen.
That's
right?
Good.
So that's
bro,
pretty much
you spoke powerful right now, bro, because like when you take advantage of every opportunity that you had. It's not like, okay, I'm here now, let me chill.
No.
It's like, nah, this is a stepping stone.
Yeah. And you have to see it that way. You have to, because there's the next guy.
No, you spoke to me, bro.
Good. I'm glad.
That's good.
Because if you don't do it, somebody else will.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when I started covering games, this was in 2018 when I joined Univision. And when I joined Univision, I worked for La Que Buena. I worked for
Interesting.
Que Buena. Yeah,
you were like, I ended up here anyway.
Yeah. And the first time I ever went on air on Que Buena, I said, Aquí manda La Que Buena. I had Lale encrusted in my brain.
Holy cow.
Which is, I don't think anybody caught it.
Nobody caught it.
Yeah. But I was
able. You caught it.
Yeah, I did. Oh my God. Yeah. I was like, oh. But again.
Aquí manda la buena.
Yeah, dude. So, but when I got to Univision, it was the same deal. It was a matter of, I worked on Latino Mix. I worked on Amor, I worked on Que Buena, and I worked on WRTO, which is a sports station. So I went at all 4 stations there at Univision.
Wow. So you were all guns blazing.
Man, I walked
in
there.
You're still all guns blazing,
I am, because again, I live a good life in the sense of I have my family, I have good friends, and I have enough for me to say, if I want to go have a burger right now, I can have a burger. And I can put gas in my car.
That's right.
Right? Now, can I go on vacation if I want to right now? Probably not, right?
Sure,
because I got stuff to do, and I got mortgage. I got,
Yeah.
But I live a life where I am happy.
Humble, bro.
Man, my life is beautiful. I can't ask. I'm healthy.
Amen.
And those are things that I look at and I say, I'm in a good place.
Amen.
Now, am I still working hard to get to where I want to be at some point? Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that. But I like, man,
I'm all over the place. No,
your story it sets amazing context, bro, because now you're talking how many years before you even stepped into a Chicago stadium or arena to be an announcer, like,
Right.
Because this was not overnight.
No. So the first time I ever did anything sports wise was in 2000 and I want to say 3. Was that the year the Cubs almost made it?
Against Miami,
Yeah.
Bartman.
Yeah. So 2003.
Thanks for opening up that wound again.
I
2016 covered it nice though, bro.
Oh,
you know?
man,
Let's go.
man.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So in 2003, I something clicked in my brain, and I said, "Well, how can I get a media credential for these stadiums?" So I went in and did some research, and I found a fax number. I faxed
You were like, hey, I'm a Univision. You were like, I'm ready.
I was still at LA at the time, and I sent over a fax, requested credentials for the Cubs. They replied yes, and I was like, oh. So I got credentials to go to the Cubs, and I was able to do
locker room interviews.
Yeah. And so I did the same thing for the White Sox, and I went over there, and Sandy Alomar was amazing to me. Like he was an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And so that was my first taste of getting some kind of coverage. I had a morning show at the time, and so I was getting interviews and playing that on my show, and I was recording stuff, and so that was my first taste of that. Now, to get into an actual stadium, that was 2014.
Wow.
My career started in 01. So it was 13 years after of doing music radio. And there was a lot in between. There was a time. There was a
met
period,
players, I'm sure, in between.
And there was a period in my life, the
Yeah.
same deal, that there was a little bit of downtime in the sense of in 2010, I think it was, I left LA. They did cutbacks, and my contract was, I had just received a contract. They were like, oh, this.
Well, remember 08, 09,
Yeah,
10,
yeah.
11, 12 was bad for everybody.
Yeah. So I was gone from there. And then, so I was doing voiceover work. I was working for a station in Kentucky remotely. I was doing a lot of things.
Wow, you went to Kentucky. You worked in Kentucky?
No, remotely.
Remotely. Oh,
remotely.
Okay,
So I was recording stuff and sending.
Interesting.
To Kentucky. Yeah. I also did that for a station in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, Mexico.
Look at that.
But it was all remote. I would record, send them over. They'd play them on the radio station.
Voiceovers.
Yep. Voiceovers. So I did that for a while.
Commercials.
Yep. Commercials.
Nice.
I did like training videos, stuff like that.
Sure.
I did a little bit of everything. But I wasn't at a radio station for a period of time. And that's when I started working at the casino as a blackjack dealer.
Interesting.
Blackjack dealer dressed as Elvis. Because then I was an Elvis tribute artist.
What?
Yeah. So
we got to get some B-roll of that, bro. We need some B-roll of that for sure.
Yeah. So that was a very fun time in my life because I was able to perform. I was able to sing.
So you're a performer all around, bro.
That's
Singer.
my thing. Yeah. So I was able to do that, which was my ultimate goal, right? Was to sing. So I was able to do that for a living for a little bit.
Interesting.
But then that itch of getting back into an actual radio station, just being at a radio station, came back. And that was when I came back in 2014. After that, I worked at a station. I worked at a station in Mendota after I left LA. So I moved to Mendota, which is about an hour and a half from Chicago.
Okay.
I worked there, programmed the station. We did sales for the station.
Wow.
I did the morning show. I
Everything.
produced. It was like literally my baby.
Interesting.
Like, I did everything and anything at that station.
Local.
It was local. It
But
was
it was a great place
Aurora.
to-
It was Rochelle.
Aurora's not
Yeah.
small.
So
That's
no.
big.
So it would cover Aurora, Rochelle, a little bit of Joliet,
Oh, yeah, you
Mendota.
got
So
a
it was all that
big
the
population.
West. Yeah. So I did that, but again, it was like I want to get back to Chicago radio. I want to get back there.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, life happens, and I've always been active in voiceover work. Not as much as I want to. So if anybody needs a voiceover, let me know.
Are you putting them out there?
That's That's something that I want to do. Be able to do, not full time because obviously sports, my world.
But
revolves around
voiceovers
sports.
bro, you could do them in the morning when you get up.
Yeah.
And,
oh man,
and then go to work.
that's it. That's
with
my
the,
next.
with the no more faxing.
Right.
Imagine faxing a voiceover.
Man. So that's my next step. I really want to do more of it. I've done a lot for. Currently, I do it for the Blackhawks. They have every shift. It's a mini documentary that they have. So I voice it in Spanish. So I do that.
I
I
was
do
just
that
at the game.
consistently. Yeah, man,
I love,
it's
But,
so good.
man,
Blackhawks
dude,
is so good.
And that's, oh man, but we could talk about this forever. Like, so you're at this point, it's more like, okay, you're out of Mendota.
Yep.
How did you end up back in Chicago?
So from Mendota, I get a sales job, which I hated. I hate sales.
Yeah.
Very successful at it.
Yeah.
I was very successful. I was regional director for the company that I was working for. I had a team, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it went back to that pursuit of happiness. And I was like, okay, I need to figure my life out. I'm not happy. So I told my boss at the time, I said, and that was, I worked for her and she was an amazing boss as well. I told Colleen, I said, listen, I'm not happy. So I'm leaving. However, I'll give you as much time as you need.
To find
how much time do you
replacement,
need? She's like, can you give me 3 months? I said, yes. So I gave her 3 months notice, which is usually your 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I gave her 3 months.
But in those 3 months, you were like, I'm gone. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So I said, listen, hire whoever you have to. I'll be in the process. I'll train. I'll do whatever you need, because she was an amazing person.
Yeah, you didn't want to leave her out like that.
So did that, left. I had no plan. I had no plan whatsoever, but I knew that I wanted to be happy.
Yeah.
One day, after struggling to the point, I got to the point where I couldn't put gas in my car.
Yeah.
I couldn't go grab me a burger. Like if I want to get out of here today and grab a burger, I couldn't do that. And I was at church one day, and it was one of those where we had like it was one of those nights that you just go and you pray and
prayer night.
Yeah, prayer night. Lady standing next to me. I'm praying and I'm saying, God, I'm at a point where I'm rock bottom. I need help. I need help. I need to figure this out, and I need to help my family. And it was the lady next to me turns around and says, God says you're going to be okay. Your family's going to be fine. Everything that I prayed for, she repeated to me and said, you're going to be fine. It was one of those moments where it's like, oh,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
And
it's beautiful.
And shortly after, because I was still doing stuff for Kentucky. I have a very good relationship with the person in charge of that station.
Nice.
So here and there was little jobs, and she calls me, says, Miguel, do you want to go to Memphis for St. Jude? They have a conference for radio host. So St. Jude is very close to my heart.
Sure.
Every year I would go to Kentucky. I would drive over there and do a radiothon in Kentucky.
Okay.
And then we do one here in Chicago.
Yes.
So she's like, they have a training session. Would you like to go representing our station? I said, yeah.
Nice.
So I'm sitting on a plane and I'm still down and out.
Yeah.
And I'm on the plane and I'm like, God, can you like give me something out of this trip, because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And shortly after coming onto the plane, I have two people that I know, but it's a group of 3, and 2 of those that I knew of worked at Que Buena and Univision. And it's so they end up sitting one next to me and 2 in front of me.
Interesting.
A woman, young man, and then another man next to me, and we start talking because I knew the other guy. We've crossed paths.
And we're all flying to the same place.
Yeah, they're all going to the same place. So we're talking and how you been? Good, everything. And then the lady says to the other guy, look at this guy. He already found a friend. And Mauricio, which is his name, said, no, that's Miguel. Like Miguel used to work for La Ley. Miguel, he used to do sports. Yeah, he knew who I was. Yeah. And she turns around and says, ¿Quieres locutor? I was like, yeah. She's like, would you like to come back to radio?
Just God like
answered.
That.
God answered Papa. In a heartbeat. God said, hold my beer. It's like, and she turns around and says, you want to go back to radio?
Wow.
I was like,
wow.
What? So I'm like, yeah, of course. She's like, I'm not hiring now, but at least I'll have your contact information before the trip ends. Let's connect, whatever. So I asked the guy sitting next to me, I'm like, who is she? She's like, she's the program director. She's, I said, okay. And so that weekend happens, an amazing weekend. We get to know each other. When we're about to leave, she's like, don't forget to send me your demo. Monday morning, as soon as I get home, I produce a demo for her. I send it. And then she's like, we're having our St. Jude Radiothon next week. Would you like to join us? Join us. And I said, I'm going to be there already, because I was already connected with St. Jude to be there.
Sure.
So
perfect.
Yeah. So I get there and we start midday. It was Thursday. Midway through that day, she calls me into her studio. She's like, hey, come here. Can we talk? I was like, yeah. She's like, I already talked to my boss. I'm going to hire you. She's like, I don't know what it is about you, but I saw something that I need you on my team. And that was it. Like it was one of those where the process of getting hired at Univision
played out.
Was just amazing, right? And So a couple of weeks later, I started working. I started on Amor. Then about a week later, she's like, "Can you send me a demo for Latino mixes? You're half Puerto Rican, right?" I was like, "Yeah." So I sent her a demo for Latino mix, put me on that same weekend. And then she's like, "I want to get you back into sports." I start working with Hector Lozano on his show.
Yeah.
And then it was, "Can you cover a Bulls game?" I said, "Yeah."
So first time.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah, first time.
First time. Let's go there.
Obviously, the nerves are crazy, right? You think about, it's the Bulls. It's the Michael Jordan Bulls. It's what inspired me to play basketball while I was back in my house on Division Street, right?
Yeah.
And just, again, you think about all those different moments and how to, when you get there and you're sitting in that booth and you look to your left and you see the banners,
you're
championship
like, wow,
banners.
I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah. And it all becomes a process of just trying to be the best that you can at it, right?
Yeah.
But there's always someone who's going to be trying to knock you down.
Interesting.
And that happened right off the bat. The first game, my boss calls me and says, "Hey, I heard the game. You really weren't talking much." And
you were co-host.
Yeah. I wasn't play-by-play. I was the analyst. And so the person that was doing play-by-play had told her that I just sucked at my job.
Wow.
And the reason I found out is because he would sit in front of a guy that knew my friend Arturo, because Arturo was the one that hired me for my internship. So he knew Arturo, and he knew that Arturo was my friend. So he calls Arturo and says, "Hey, just give Miguel a heads up that this guy already said that Miguel didn't know what he was doing, because again, I'm a threat to this guy. I'm a threat." And so when that happens, she calls me and I said, "Listen, the reason I wasn't talking about it is because he wasn't letting me. He was not stopping. He wasn't giving me those opportunities to go in there and talk."
Interesting.
So I again, vuelvo, like it goes back to, I think that as a human being, you have to be, one, a decent human being.
That's right.
Two, you have to be, you have to have that seguridad en ti mismo.
Yeah.
You got to know what your value is. You got to know what you can do. And one, you can't have that. It's envidia. You got to, you just, listen, it'll come and bite you in the ass. It will.
Yeah.
It will, because I ended up being the Spanish play-by-play for the Bulls, took his job.
Look at that.
Spanish play-by-play for the Cubs, I took his job as well. And Spanish play-by-play for the Blackhawks, and I took his job.
Look at that. Look at that. And pride comes before the fall, bro.
And that's what it is, and it comes. Oh, I even took the Bears from him too.
Let's go.
And it's not to talk bad about that person.
No,
in general. It's about
just adversity.
Yeah, exactly. Just be good. Be a good human being, because things they'll come back and bite you in the ass.
That's
right?
crazy.
So when I start covering those games for the Bulls, it was here and there. Then I don't remember my first Cubs game, which I hate myself for, because I don't know. I think I blacked out. I'm most likely
maybe because all these games already at this point.
Well, no, I don't, because it was the Cubs.
Wow.
I don't remember the first time. I don't, and it sucks. But I started filling in for Cubs. Then I started filling in for Blackhawks. When they would call off, they'd ask
Call Miguel.
Miguel, are you available? Yes. Miguel, are you available?
So the
yes.
Spanish guys would call off.
Yeah. And then Miguel would, whatever reason it may have been, but Miguel was ready, right? I was ready to go in and
that's it.
Yeah. And one day I found, I was on my way to Wrigley to a game, and I went from the parking lot to the park. They have like a little golf cart that takes you. And I'm on that golf cart, and Jeff Joniak jumps on that golf cart.
Wow.
And by then I already knew Jeff, because I was working with him at WBBM News Radio.
Sure.
And Jeff's like, "Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah." We're talking. And he's like, "How many games do you do here and at the Bears?" I said, "Well, when they call off, that's when he's like, "They call off?" Jeff was like, "They call off?" And I was like, "Yep." And he was
a different culture where we come from, bro.
And Jeff was like, "Take advantage." I said, "No, absolutely. You best believe I'm taking advantage."
Wow.
Jeff Joniak is an amazing person.
I love Jeff. Listening to him, man, he sounds like an amazing person.
Jeff is great.
He's someone I got to get on.
Yeah,
There's a few people, man, that I just watch for years. And
Jeff is amazing. He's such a busy man, though. Like, that man has so much on the plate. Like,
I can imagine.
Man, yeah. But yeah, it came down to that, being available and knowing where you want it to be. And again, being aware that there will always be someone who's going to try to stop you in your tracks. And that's the last thing you can allow them to do.
That is crazy to me that person is literally sitting right next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, you know, I went through it for many years with that person. Oh yeah. Yeah. But again, I came out on top.
You came out on top, and you're still there.
Yeah,
you're still there. So now you're doing the. Let's talk about the Cubbies, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Cubbies because I mean I think we both bleed Cubby Blue, and you have a dream job that a lot of us would love to have.
Viene el lanzamiento, le pone el bate, está la banda volando al jardín central izquierdo, se fue.
You were just at the convention.
That was.
Right. We're talking about a new 2025 team. We were just talking about Cody last year and how excited we were to have Cody.
Right.
Honestly, it sucks to see him gone. I mean, that's from my perspective. I really wanted him to come back, especially getting Tucker. Man, that's going to be such an addition. But losing Cody, hey, at the end of the day, it's business, right?
Business.
And Cody's doing what's best for Cody and his family. And
and he had a down year, so I understand the move. I understand the move. There was a lot of money out there as well that was going to be owed to him, and
too.
so
and then
it
got hurt. But that play got hurt. That was tough because that was that play with that attempt was amazing, bro.
It was,
Man,
and it was unfortunate. But we go back to, like you said, it's a business, right? And they have to figure out, and those are the things that. Obviously, I'm not behind the scenes, and I don't know what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
But I think, yes, we should be excited for Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
We should definitely be excited. And this is a big part of why Cody Bellinger isn't coming back. It's Pete Crow-Armstrong. Like center field belongs to Pete.
I'm so excited about
Pete Crow-Armstrong. He's going to have so many gold gloves in his future. Oh, man, that kid is amazing. And he's an amazing kid, too.
He looks like it.
He is. He is. Very humble kid. And so it's good to see, right? But center field belongs to him.
Center field belongs to him.
And that's the reality of things. Now, when we talk about that outfield, you have Hap, PCA, and now Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
Say is going to be your DH. Right.
Which I don't think he's going to be too happy about that. He wants to play the field.
But when we saw, he does. But if you look back, and there was struggles there, right?
Yeah.
And those are things that you have to look at. Where are you more beneficial to the team?
Yeah.
His bat was amazing.
Yeah, he got hot for a while.
He did.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good move for the Chicago Cubs. But in general, going back to being at the convention, it was just amazing to see.
The convention.
Just interacting with the fans. It's so good. It's so good because it's a subculture.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people don't realize how big that subculture is with the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
And it's been so great.
It's a huge community.
Man. I've met so many friends. I met you through the Cubs.
Yeah, that's right.
Like those are the things. Right. Those are the connections that you make when you're at the ballpark and social media.
I love being at the game.
Me too,
man. I say that if I could retire young, man, I'll be at so many Cubs games. I'd be at so many Cubs games. How was it like to like talk to the Latino players, right? Like especially the young Latino players that don't know much English,
right?
How do they adjust? How do you see them adjust, especially at a convention when it's really like, yo no sé hablar como mucha gente, tú sabes como.
It's Cubs are understanding the need and of
for Spanglish interpreters.
Yes. They're
on field Spanglish,
right? They understand that the community is big. They understand that the players, it's such an important factor in having that connection. This year, for the first time ever, we had a Spanish chat with Cub players. I hosted it. And it was
so cool.
And you think about it and you look back at so many years of convention. I think it's like 38, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we have something in Spanish. Right. And that's
what?
Yes. So
you're breaking barriers.
Man, I'm so blessed to be able to do that.
Salute.
Yes. Ya no tengo café, pero saludo.
Vamos a agarrar más. Where's our coffee guy around here? Oh, that's me. Keep looking at that camera while I go fill up.
So we go back to knocking down those doors, right? And those barriers. And just because, again, that's what it's all about. You think about, and it's not just about me. It's that next generation that's coming behind me, right? Whoever's going to take my job coming behind me.
Yeah, and let's talk about that real quick, because it's like you have this big heart, bro. Like you have this big heart where you love people, you love God, you love your job, you do those things with honor. I see a younger kid coming up and saying, "Hey, Miguel, can you teach me?" I see you saying, "Absolutely."
Yeah, I've done it throughout my career.
Because I know that you're probably going to end up doing bigger things after that.
Yeah, listen, okay. So I want to.
You're not taking my job yet, kid.
No, not yet. I want to grow. I want to grow old. I want to grow old at Wrigley.
Amen.
I do. Like that's
go.
where I want to end up, right? But I will share everything I know with anyone who will ever ask.
That's beautiful.
You know, I did that from the start of my career, because when I started, I didn't have anybody willing to teach me. Everyone was willing to knock me down, right? They didn't want the young kid to come up, and it's happened throughout my career.
Interesting.
And I wanted to be that change. I wanted to be the person that someone can ask, Miguel, how can I do this? I'm very knowledgeable in what I do.
Yeah.
And I want to share that. And I did it. And I trained people on the board. I trained people to go on air. I trained people in production. And I would get a question a couple of times, Miguel, why are you teaching them? They're going to take your job. I said, if they take my job, it will make me proud and say, I taught them.
Yeah.
I was the one
student.
that exactly. That will make me be happy, because at the end of the day, if they are appreciative, they'll say, Miguel.
That's the thing, though.
Miguel was the one that taught me how to do this.
And it's very rare to find a Miguel.
And you don't listen.
It's very rare to find those.
You don't need it, but it's cool, right? It's cool to say, listen,
Absolutely.
Miguel was there with me from the get go, right?
Hey, it's nice to be told that sometimes.
Yeah. And again, that's one thing that I will never say no to anyone trying to learn. As long as I have time to do it, I'll teach you. And I went back many years after, and I was teaching at my school that I graduated from. I went back as an instructor,
cool.
and it was one of those where I was teaching, yes, their curriculum, but I was giving them what you need to know. You know, I was going rogue, and I was like, "This is what you really need to know."
You're like in real estate exam, you take this. What is this? What are these questions? You're never going to use them, but you're going to have to know them for the exam. After that, you'll never ever come across that.
Exactly. So for me, it was like, I want to teach you exactly what you need to be successful here at a radio station and what you need to do. And so it's been a big part of, and to this day, I have guys that I've taught, and that makes me happy. You know, it makes me happy that I can share something that I didn't have at the beginning. When I went to work at WBBM News Radio, that was such a breath of fresh air.
WBBM AM.
Yes.
Francisco Cotto?
Yes.
I know him.
Yeah.
I know him.
105.9 and 780.
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Miguel Esparza. These are the top stories on News Radio WBBM.
It's a crime we hear a lot about these days. A new report compares car thefts in Illinois.
New bedtime hours have been implemented at the Cook County's juvenile detention facility. A guardsman has been arrested for applying for an unlawful job, and a Geneva soldier will finally rest in Illinois more than 70 years after his death in the Korean War. WBBM Sports, the Sox and Phillies were postponed due to weather.
So I went there, and they were all so welcoming, and they all wanted to help me. That's something that I didn't. Was it rare? Yeah, for me it was, because I came from all my career in Spanish radio.
Sometimes
that's the thing. Exactamente. Bro. Yeah, I came all my career from Spanish radio, and I walked in there, and everyone was like, "Well, let's help Miguel." I was like, "What?" So
I ain't got to fight?
Yeah, right. I interviewed for that job, so I stepped out. Bro. I stepped out because I was so. This is another teaching moment, right? Leave that comfort zone. You have to leave your comfort zone at some point. And for me, my comfort zone has been Spanish radio. I've done this all my life. I can do this for the rest of my life. But I was like, I want to try something in English. I want to try it. You know, I want to see if I can do this. I apply to an assistant producer position at WBBM News Radio. When I interview with Julie Mann, she says, Miguel, you're overqualified for this position. And I said, I understand that. However,
I need to get my foot in the door. And right then and there, I told her, I said, my goal is to be on air on WBBM. So she already knew what I wanted to do.
And she wanted to help you.
Yeah. So she was like, okay, gave me the job. And another, this is a tip for when you go to a job interview, because a lot of people get so nervous and you forget to be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you have to be. You have to be yourself. You have to show who you are. You have to show that personality. I got to the point where she told me, okay, so we'll call you either way, whether we give you the job or not. I said, if you're not going to be giving me the job, don't call me. I said, I have no need for that call. I appreciate you, but I don't want it. And she started laughing, and you create that connection.
And
right?
not only that, it's like it makes it easy to communicate with you. I can work with this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was hired, and I learned that position very well, to the point where they had me on middays
English
from 10 to 3 English. I was just a producer, not just a producer, but I was a producer.
Sure.
It was the lowest entry level position that they have available at WBBM. And as I'm there, it's like you see the newsroom activate. It's a different monster.
Really?
When something happens, like I remember when we had the plane land on Lakeshore Drive, and just how that activated, or even the shooting at the hospital here in Chicago. I don't remember the hospital per se, but I remember that, the shooting in Aurora.
Yeah, where the nurse got.
Yeah. I was in the newsroom for both of those shootings, which is terrible. But the way it activates to get all the information out to you're sending this reporter out. I'm on Twitter finding information to make sure that if I can see somebody that's on the inside, if we could get any information from the police department.
So you're learning stuff like on the fly.
Yeah, man. It's a different monster.
So it's different than aquí estamos en vivo, right?
Yeah. No, this was a different world.
And it
was amazing to learn, right? That's why they're the best, because they have such an amazing, well-oiled machine. That
they're on FM now.
Yeah, right.
When they went to FM, we're like, what are you guys doing?
You
guys should stay AM. That's how we know. But now it's like, okay, go to 105.9. Because I'm used to CKG. Remember 105.9? I miss CKG. Bring it back.
Yeah. So for me to be there was just great learning. And then it was cool because Jeff Joniak would call in and record his little so at the top and the bottom of the hour, you hear.
I would hear that, yeah.
News, WBBM News Time 105,
Brought
and then
to
you
you
go
by-
in there. And then in sports, Jeff Joniak, the Bears did this, and that, like a 10-second, whatever it is. So he would call and I would record him. And then after a while, he was like, one day he stops. He's like, Miguel. I was like, yeah. I'm like, fuck.
Did I mess up one of his jobs?
I'm like, man. So he's like, do you do on air? I said, yeah. Where do you do on air? I said, well, in Spanish, I actually do, I call Bears games. He's like, no shit. I was like, yeah. And he's like, what the hell are you doing at the producer's desk? I said, well, Jeff, that's, it's my way to get in the door. I got to figure out somehow to get in here and do something.
Wow.
So he was like, okay. And he recorded stuff. He's gone. Calls me about a week later. He says, Miguel, record a demo for sports. I said, okay. Jeff is asking for a demo. What am I doing? I'm recording a demo.
Please listen to my demo.
Yeah. So I
Let's
send him the demo for Sports Anchor, and he calls him back. He's like, fix this. Call the player by their full name, because I called him I said Baez instead of Javi Baez. He's like, we say full names. I said, okay. So
Javi Baez.
I re-recorded it. I said, Javi
Pero
Baez.
para nosotros no es así, Jeff, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So I re-recorded, sent it. He's like, okay, got it. Then about a week later again, he's like, all right, we have a job for you. We're going to put you on anchoring sports. I was like, what?
Bro.
Again, I think back, I'm like, man, how did I get to WBBM News Radio as a sports anchor? Like, what? Yeah. And then a couple of months later, pandemic hit, so it kind of it shrunk my training for news anchor. Then I became a news anchor on WBBM News Radio. And to this day, I'm the only assistant producer to go from assistant producer to on-air talent on WBBM.
Let's go.
Yeah. So it's, and it was stepping out. It was me, getting out of that comfort zone of Spanish.
Boy, I'll tell you, today's show, Miguel, has been impactful. It has been very meaty, right? It's been... No, you ain't leaving yet. You ain't leaving yet. You're like, great, thanks, man. But but real quick, because I know we're pressed for time. But man, like it just speaks to how you don't settle.
No,
right? And if it's like for instance, I do this podcast, I do the show, and I love to meet new people, and I love to hear the stories. But you hit the nail on the head that rocked me. It was like, you got to learn the whole thing, bro.
Yeah. You
just can't learn how the microphone works. You just can't learn how the angles of the cameras. And I look at what these guys do.
I
and
could
it's
go
like,
back there and switch those cameras up. I
don't know. I wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah.
Right.
But because of that want,
that drive,
that need,
I
know how to do that. You know,
Man,
I may not be their level,
sure,
right? But I can definitely.
But you can
do
say,
it.
if these guys say, excuse me, if these guys say I got to go, you're like, well, the show's going to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
The show's going to keep rolling.
Yeah, and that's that's a big part of it,
bro.
Yeah,
because
I'm glad. Thank you.
That just shows me that I have a lot of work to do as far as sharpening my craft.
Yeah,
right. Like my first language was Spanish. Like I didn't know English when I was a kid. Everything was Espanol, right?
Yeah.
Of course, as we get older, you go to public school, your friends are English, you're speaking English. And then the only time I talk to my mom Spanish is my mom or my clients. Yeah. But most of the time, yo sé que necesito hablar más español.
Claro.
Porque si voy a estar
conmigo, va a tener que ser en español, si no, no vas.
Si no voy a traer la cerveza. I'm going to be bringing,
right?
Aquí está tu café,
yeah, gracias.
Vete.
Yeah, no. It's important. Listen, I always tell this to even my nephews. They're starting, 13. He's 15 and 14, and they're starting to speak more Spanish because I tell them the importance of having both. I've been able to have the best of both worlds. I've been able to double dip.
It's hard to find people.
I was working at I was doing Cubs games, and after the Cubs game, I'd drive to WBBM, do the overnight shift, and then do another Cubs game. But why did I do it? Because I needed it. I needed to do that. I needed to be able. It got to the point though.
It opened doors.
Yeah, and it got to the point. Like today, if I were to say, God forbid I lose my job, right? I can apply at any news station.
You'll be working anyway.
At any news station because I have WBBM behind, under my belt.
That's a big name.
That's the name.
But you weren't just there like, okay, I worked there. No, you were actually a big part of that team.
I can go in there and run that newsroom for you.
You see?
That's the thing, because I came. It started from the bottom. Now we're here, right? That's the reality.
So we're gonna use that. Don't sue us for that, real quick. Use it half a second. That's it.
Yeah. And that's what it was. Everywhere that I went and everywhere that I've worked, and it's been that. It's been
hard work.
It's been that hard work,
dedication.
that discipline. And discipline is the most important word. That if you take something from today, take that with you.
And you said,
if I could only be disciplined in the gym.
Hey, bro,
we can't all be perfect, right?
All be perfect. But the willingness to always learn and learn more. I think that, right?
We never stop learning. I was on a flight one day because the sales job that I did, it was traveling. I used to travel every weekend, in a different city, and we were selling in different cities. And I was sitting. I hate talking to anyone on the plane.
Really?
I don't.
Okay, so now I know we travel to the games.
No, callado. Like I'll headphones. Don't talk to me. But this guy, one time, this guy, he sits next to me. Very interesting looking man. He looked like Indiana Jones. I don't know. And from the moment he's there, he starts talking to me, and I'm like, man, this guy's not going to shut up, right? So he starts talking about life and whatnot, and I don't remember the full context of the conversation, but I do remember one thing he said. In life, we're either winning or we're learning. You're never losing.
That's good.
And if you take that with you, to this day,
good. You took nothing
that
from
was
Indiana Jones.
Yep, that was it.
But that was it.
Either in life, either we're winning or we're learning. And that's
Can you imagine both? Huh?
Every downfall that you have has to be there has to be a lesson behind it.
That's it.
There has to be a lesson of why it happened or how I got up from that, and just take anything from that will help you, just build you up.
Man, you have amazing resume and experience.
Thank you.
And I was going to say, what would you tell the kids? But hey, Ben, this whole interview was a great,
thank you,
great insight for the kids on what.
Yeah,
because the youth again, like they're
listen to your parents. That's what I'll say. Listen to your parents. Listen to your parents. Be respectful to everyone and anyone. I think that's the most.
You never know who you're talking to. You never. And I tell that to my stepson sometimes. I'm like, you never know who you're going to come across paths with,
Yeah.
because that person may be a CEO
Yeah.
of a company and says, you know what, I like the way you A, B, and C. Why don't you come talk to me on Monday?
Here, I want you to, this is something that I also want to say. Don't be that way expecting something.
In return.
Yes.
That's right.
Just
be that way.
Be genuine. Be a nice human being. Be caring.
You,
I think that's the most important thing. Now, will things come about? Yeah, they will. And those are all blessings that will come to you. But at the end of the day, I think if we can be decent human beings, we'll be in a good place.
Amen.
Yeah.
Miguel, man, I wish I could talk to you more, but
well, we can a little bit before we go.
Yeah.
Going back to Cubs convention.
Yeah.
Going back and just the way that we, it was one of those special weekends, and the bus was big around the convention just because Sammy was back.
Yeah.
That was a big
let's
deal.
talk about Sammy
And
a little
you
bit.
mentioned the Spanish players, and we touched upon that. And they're very happy with what we've been able to do. The response that we got from that Spanish chat was amazing. It was just amazing to watch. The players had a great time. The brass heard about it, and they were like, "We're having it next year." So those are the little things, and we go back to opening doors and knocking down those barriers. There was this young girl there that she was shaking and almost crying, and she said, "Thank you for talking about breaking down those barriers, because me as a woman, I face that every day, and to see you be able to do that." Thank you.
Man,
so those are the little things that you always look for.
So yeah, bro, and just I could picture you creating so many things there now with the Latin players, because remember, the Cubbies have had Latin players since they were.
That's why it blew my mind that this was the first time that we actually did something in Spanish. Yeah,
but bro, that what's about to come from that?
Yeah,
you're about to take that to a whole nother level where players are gonna instantly love that, because look, bro, when you come from the Dominican Republic, you come from Puerto Rico, you come from Cuba, you come from Mexico, you come from any Latin place, and you come to play baseball, but you don't speak. All you speak is baseball.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't speak English. And then comes a Miguel to puts together a show to welcome them and the culture, that they can be like, ahora sí me siento por lo menos más o menos que estoy tranquilo, que puedo enfocarme en el béisbol.
Yeah. But here's the thing, something that the Cubs do very well, they have schools for these players. And
really?
They have schools. They have them in programs to learn English.
That's awesome. I didn't
amazing
know that.
The connection that they have. So I've done voiceover work for them, where when the international class comes in, they'll have a video talking about the history of the team. It's in Spanish for them, and it's voiced by me. And so they have that. Then they have the English lessons. So they are giving them not only that opportunity to play baseball, but they're
preparing
making them
in America.
preparing them. Kevin Alcantara, such a smart kid.
Really,
it's amazing. He's learned the language already. He's made it a point to make, like he debuted last year. He made it a point to have his interview in English. He didn't want the translator.
I heard it on the radio. You interviewed him.
Yeah. And he made it a point that he wanted to do that in English.
That was great.
And
pushing through.
Yes. And he's very smart. And he inspired me over the convention, because he left a message out there, and he said, let's just, one, be better. Yes. But also learn. And he said, read something that everyone needs to do. Read more books.
Look at that.
And it doesn't have to be precisely in baseball, but learn a little bit about everything. And it hit me, because I don't read enough. And I was like, I need to get so those are the little
push
things.
You through, things like
for
that.
sure. Very smart young
man. Get
man.
out of your comfort zone again,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that. At the end of the day, always get whatever you can from anyone and everywhere.
Man, and speaking of the Latin players, man, we just lost Alizé, right?
Yeah.
Saw that he just signed with Mets. That's a good place for him, though.
It is. Ancelotta's been a good kid.
He's about to play with Soto.
And you only hope for those guys to be able to bounce back the right way. He had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, man.
He was one that I know that expectations were very high for him.
Yeah, they were.
And it's unfortunate, right?
I don't know. I feel like they put him in that position a little too soon, but we didn't have any help.
No, there was nothing. And he did well while he was there. He did well until he got injured,
and
right?
That's why I feel they put him in a little prematurely, or at least they put that pressure on him a little too soon, because I feel like he would have been better as a setup man.
Yeah.
But he did do well as a closer.
He did.
But then he got hurt, and it's like that goes to show how much more help we need in that bullpen.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. We get this guy from the Astros.
Yeah, I'm not so excited about Presley.
You're not
only because of the last name. I like him. But.
It's crazy. We're getting all these Astros now. We get Bregman. Ooh.
Right. Look. With what is it? Ryan Presley, I believe.
Yeah,
he's 36 years old.
Yeah,
right. And 36 in baseball years, it's up there. Yeah, and I know that he said that he would only waive his no trade clause if he was given the closer position.
Closer, yeah.
I get it. You want that kind of mentality, but how much can you still go at 36 and be that high leverage kind of guy? I don't know. Yeah. I believe it's 7 in the top 100 prospects that the Cubs have in the minors. And I don't want to give one of those 7 up for a guy who's 36 years old.
Yes, that's a big point.
I don't see it. I feel like they shouldn't do it. Again, I have no part in the decisions, but I wouldn't do it.
And the game has changed so much. Remember Clemens?
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was 40 years old. Darts.
Yeah, but it's different. You think about, this weekend I was able to talk a little bit with Fergie Jenkins. And when you think about what that man did.
You throw these names out, having conversations with legends that I can only dream of. Man, that's awesome.
It's, it's just, the cordial and how you do it. Just sitting there and just talking to that man, so calm and collective. And But then when you look back at his career, the amount of complete games, and now you only dream of a complete game.
Put those.
No,
these guys are making so much money. You're only going to be good for 7 and 1/3. 6, man. You're not even 7.
Yeah, no, it's very rare that you have.
The game. You're going to just pitch enough to qualify for the win.
It's very rare that you have somebody who, like for me, ideally, I would love to see a starting pitcher go 7, but you hardly don't see that anymore. You have your 7, 8, and 9, your relievers, and that's just the difference of the game now.
You think it's because they pay them so much?
I don't know what it is. I really don't. I can't pinpoint it. I don't. I think it has to do with velocity. The velocity is higher than what it used to be, and then that's what creates the injuries. And you don't want to put them out there for so much. So it's taking care of the guys, which I understand.
These guys are pitching a $120, $130.
It's crazy. Yeah, but hoy en día, when you look at those velocities, there, your starting pitchers are already up there in the hundreds, 103, 105. What's the pitcher for Oakland A's or the Las Vegas A's? That kid is amazing. I can't come up with his name right now.
Stud.
But you think about that, and I think that's the difference in the game nowadays. But ideally, I remember I'm like, every time I'm there, I'm like, go 7 innings, please. But that's not going to happen. It's very rare that it does. No.
Man, I wish I could see more of those. I go back to those 80s games sometimes on YouTube.
Yeah. It's always good to look back, for sure.
Yeah, man, those Jody Davis was there, right?
He was. I did see him.
¿Cómo se ve?
He's good. Yeah. He's a good guy. I remember, I think it was like last year or the year before, he was looking for Twitter followers. And so he sent me a message, hey, can you share my tweet? I'm trying to get some Twitter followers.
I'll follow him. Let's go follow.
And I tweeted, good guy. He got some good follows there. And again, he's a good guy. Jody Davis is there.
What are you more excited about going into the 2025 now with the Cubbies?
More excited. Well, I can't wait for the ceremony where they induct Sammy and Derek Lee. That's gonna be nice, man. That's gonna be real cool.
Do we have a date on that yet?
I don't know the date. I'm sure it'll be somewhere in August or July, August. I don't know.
Yeah. Gotta see if we get those tickets. Gotta get them soon. You gotta get them before because they're gonna sell out. I went to the Javi Baez. I went to Rizzo.
Yeah. It's always good to see those guys come back.
I missed the Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. I missed the Chris Bryant one. There's a rumor.
The Chris. I haven't heard it. But I don't want it.
Well, where's he going to play?
I don't know. But he's unfortunately, but he's done. He's done. Like Chris is done.
That sucks.
When I went to Colorado. I went to Colorado last year. We covered games in LA and then Colorado. And I passed by it was in the tunnel, and I see Chris Bryant with his family. I'm like, this is Chris Bryant, the 2016 world champ, Chris Bryant. I'm like, man, how cool is it that I'm crossing paths?
Amazing.
And
they didn't have. You weren't part of that, as far as the Spanish.
I missed it by 2 years. That
blows my mind, though. Again,
they did have the Spanish. They did.
They did, but I wasn't there.
Well, I don't know who it was because it wasn't memorable.
Yeah, no.
Watch the guy be like, I'm going to come on your show and blast you. Man, Miguel, it's been great, man. This is good. This is good. We still got to get another interview in because I want to talk about like, what are you going to do? Like, as far as like Bears are no longer you're no longer going to be speaking for the Bears, right?
No,
or as far
no longer
as
Bears.
Analyst.
No longer Bears. I do football, but I do it for the university. It's called the Grand Valley State University in Michigan.
Sure. Yeah.
We're the only Spanish Division II football, only Division II football program that has a Spanish broadcast in the nation.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Bears, again, I wish I could do that. You never know what happens down the road as of right now, but I have so much on my plate too.
Yeah.
It's like I have the Cubs, I have the Blackhawks, I have the Bulls. And at the start of the Cubs season, they overlap, and at the end of the Cubs season, they overlap. So it's like sometimes, like opening day, for most likely, I'll be doing Cubs at 1:20, and then driving to the UC to doing the Blackhawks or the Bulls, whichever one it is. They usually overlap.
So you told me last year that they didn't travel. You guys, they didn't send you. Like I saw you at Dodger Stadium, though.
Yeah. So last year, again, breaking down doors and creating opportunities.
Amazing.
It was one of those where. So the company said last year a client came in late, so we were broadcasting away games remotely because they had to make up for the games.
Where would you now? What does remotely mean? At Wrigley?
At Wrigley. Okay. At Wrigley, they set up.
Did you watch them on the
They
screen?
set up monitors for us.
Okay.
They set up the audio feed from whatever stadium they were,
nice.
which was it was cool. It wasn't traveling, but we had the whole Dodgers series set up to broadcast from Wrigley. So I go and I talk to the Cubs and I say, hey, listen. We're broadcasting these games, the Dodgers series. We're broadcasting it from Wrigley. I said, how difficult is it to get us to go and broadcast the game? No. I lied. My question was this. I said, do you guys have discounts on hotels? Because we're thinking about the team, us, just the broadcasters and myself, thinking about traveling out and broadcasting it from Dodger Stadium.
We'll pay for our own.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if there was a discount on the hotels,
But what about the booth there?
Yeah, and the booth.
Okay.
So that was just those two things. And he's like, well, okay, so if you guys want to do that, there's no problem getting you on the plane, the team plane, getting you transportation over there. And then you'd have to take care of your hotels because we book it,
already ahead of time.
And he's like, the plane's not a problem. It's already going over there. So we were like,
just ask.
Yeah,
bro.
just ask, right?
Baby.
Just ask. That's dicen por ahí, Dios no oye al que no habla, or something like that. Something along those lines, right? And that was it. So it was like, I'm traveling on the Cubs plane.
Oh, you're looking at all the players.
I was sitting there, and you see Showtime Managa going to the bathroom. You see Kyle Hendricks going to the bathroom. Cody Bellinger sitting behind me, and I'm like, "How did this happen?" And
you don't los molestas. You don't say nothing to them, right?
It's normal.
Because you don't you like Cody. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, Cody Bellinger. Like, hey, how do you say this in Spanish? Leave me alone.
No, leave me alone, bro.
Talk outside the plane.
Yeah. What is that? Google it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. But it was, again, it was one of those where it was like, wow, like this is just unreal, and it opened up my eyes to the grind that is the baseball season. It really did, because when you think about 162 games, you think about the travel that they do, and as a player, everything that you do,
and then you have to perform.
Yeah. Me, I just talk. Right. And it was still heavy. I was like, man, because we ended up a homestand right after that game that we broadcast. We jumped on the team bus. They drove us to the airport with a state trooper escort. That was amazing. That was unreal, because you're sitting
in
there.
LA?
No, here in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Here in Chicago, you're leaving Wrigley. We got to O'Hare in about 10 minutes from Wrigley on a Friday afternoon. Yeah, this state trooper, like literally.
Is that every game?
Every game.
I didn't know
No,
that.
this state trooper this is the lane. He's on the opposite side of the road. He was, and the buses. I was like, what is this? I felt like I was on a roller coaster ride, but it was great. It was like, how can I ever travel to O'Hare normal now? Like, I can't do that.
Oh,
Like,
that
what?
must be awesome.
So that was real cool in itself. And then onto the tarmac and just walking up to the plane, those were things that it's very
So how was it in
memorable.
LA? I like Chavez Ravine. Like, how was it when you got there in LA?
Amazing. I had seen the stadium.
I
from,
saw your
from
social
up
media. I
above.
was like,
had
wow,
seen that, but
man.
walking in there, I was able to meet
Lot of
Fernando
history.
Valenzuela.
I was going to say,
I was able to
rest
meet
in
him.
peace, man. One of our heroes.
Yeah. So I was able to meet him. I was able to get my father up in the booth because my father traveled. He was like, "I'm going." So
That's so cool.
so
Your father's a big Cub fan?
Yeah, he is. He is.
let's
Well,
go.
my dad took me to games when I was a kid.
Let's go,
and,
baby.
and
Let's go.
that's where the love comes for it,
Yeah.
right? And so having him there was real
At
cool.
the Dodger
and,
Stadium.
he
Wow.
was a.
Did you meet any Dodgers? Any players?
No, really, no. It was so much just because I have my routine of what I need to do,
Yeah,
and what,
you're not there. You're not there as a fan.
Yeah,
bro. You're
yeah,
working
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So it's one of those
That
things
tells you don't hire me yet. Where's Mike? He's supposed to be here interview. He's in the dugout with Derek Jeter and Aaron Judge over there, dude.
No, but
Shoot.
it's cool. It's cool to be there and just see these stadiums and just be in the presence and calling Shohei's home run. It was at the time that I called it was his career high.
Yeah.
I think it was 45, I believe.
You guys got to hear his calls, man. You're and that's what makes, I think, even soccer, like our culture, when we call games, we're just not like 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah.
We're like, oye, ese estaba un poquito afuera, pero it's like everything's got to have
You got to put the sazon in there, right?
You got to put the sazon in there.
You got to. And so it's one of those that again, just being there. And I remember when we left Dodger Stadium, it was late at night. It was a late game.
We beat them 2 out of 3, right?
Yes. PCA had an amazing catch.
We can contend with them boys, bro.
Yeah. Hey, man. But right now it's like
they're the dynasty.
they're still high. Yeah, man. It's crazy.
There's a
man.
meme going
Oh, my
around
God.
to the Padres.
Yeah.
I own you.
At this point, like, just give them the championship and we'll just play the season just to play, right?
Still
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I remember leaving the stadium that Sunday night. We flew to Denver. And no, it wasn't Sunday. It wasn't in Sunday. It was I think it was Wednesday night. So we flew to Denver, getting off of the bus like at 4:30 with the broadcasters. And I look back and Pat Hughes says, "It's glamorous, Miguel, huh?"
I was gonna ask
and
you.
it's one of those that you think about and that grind and getting there at 4:30 in the morning and
then they gotta play. And that's just you, right?
Yeah.
And that's just you.
That's just
one
me.
stand.
Yeah, exactly.
One stand. Imagine.
It was one of those. And then coming back. So coming back from Colorado, we had a game the next day. So it was a stretch of homestand.
Yeah, because West
away,
Coast
and home again. And you think about it, and it's like, wow, this is a grind. But in my head, it's like, this is what I want. This is exactly what I want. So that's the next goal. That's being able to do that on the road with the team. That's the next goal.
You're gonna end up being the Latino Pat Hughes, bro.
Man,
of the
thank you.
Cubbies.
Que Dios te escuche.
No,
like
but real,
my
Pat Hughes, bro.
Yeah, Pat Hughes is an
How
amazing
is
guy.
working
He's an
with him?
amazing
If you
guy.
ever
Like
talked to him?
Pat Hughes knows my name. So
that's a big deal.
Every time he
That's
says
a
my
big-
name, I'm like, that's Pat
Pat
Hughes.
Pat Hughes, bro.
Yeah. And he's a great guy. He's just a great guy. He loves the team as well.
Yeah, he sure does.
He struggles when we lose but being able to sit, just cross paths with Pat and conversations here and there. It's always
I'm sure you've learned from Pat. Watching him.
Just
and
watching
listening
him.
to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good. Again, we have to learn from everyone, right? You
Yeah.
have to take something from everyone. And that's something that's very important. Even if you don't have the opportunity to work with that person, if you're listening to their broadcast, like take something from them, right? You take something from that and implement it into yours. And at the end of the day, you have to, be yourself, right? That's something that you don't want to be emulating someone exactly the same. Just be yourself, take something, learn something from them and go into that, right? And be able to learn. But back to what you said about the Spanish Pat Hughes, my goal is to be in the Hall of Fame someday. Like that's my goal.
You should.
The broadcaster that's there now, Jaime Jarrin, for the Dodgers. He retired a couple of years ago, but he started broadcasting for the Dodgers when my father was born. You know, and you think about that, the amount of years that, and not that my father is so old, right? But when you think about a career that spans close to 60 years, if not the 60, you're like, I got some years to go. You know, I still got some time to go, but that's the goal.
Well, what's crazy is that you're in not just MLB, you're around NBA, you're around the Bulls, you're around the Blackhawks. I mean, there's not many Latinos ice skating, bro.
No. There isn't. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, that we can bring that sport to our community.
Yes.
Right? Because it's such a beautiful sport. It's a sport that it's so elegant, but at the same time, it's so rough.
Yeah.
It's an art form.
It is.
Golpe, mal pase otra vez. Quisieron sacar y no pudieron. Ahora finalmente Philip Kershaw arranca con él. Zona ofensiva. Lo tiene por la derecha. Viene el disparo y el gol. Damas y caballeros, ese se llama gol. Philip Kershaw.
I can't imagine up and down in skates, bro, like that.
It's amazing to watch, and that's the reason why you'll see them switch lines all the time because you're on the ice for a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
But imagine soccer. Yeah. These guys running up and down soccer for a whole half, and it's like, dude, are you tired yet? Like, I can't.
I don't like soccer.
Yeah, it's tough. The Chicago Fire, right? How about if they call you for the Chicago Fire? You'll be like, go.
I'll do it. Obviously, I'll do it.
You'll be good with soccer, bro.
I'll do it. But it's not my favorite sport.
Yeah, you won't know what offsides is.
Yeah. No, I do know the sport. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. That's what
I admit I try to enjoy it. I really try. I think the most time I enjoy it
is the World Cup.
World Cup.
Yeah. That's the only time. Like, pero de ahí en más, you won't catch me watching MLS. You won't catch me watching Mexican soccer or European. I don't enjoy it. A sport that could end in zeros, I don't like.
All that for nothing.
Yeah, and then and then if I touch you and you fall and you're dying,
they're floppy.
I could breathe on you and you're already on the ground.
No, they're flopping.
I don't like it.
They're flopping now.
Yeah, oh my god, I don't like it. You know, and those are things. You know, back to hockey. That's a sport. Like that's a sport. You know, and when you look at that and the adrenaline and you enjoy it and again. Blackhawks have been amazing to open the doors to Latinos, and they do events. And
we got a LA King, right? That won a Stanley Cup on the Blackhawks.
Exactly,
Hernandez,
exactly. Martinez. Yeah. And you look
He's
at
a stud.
that. Yeah. And you look at those things, and you think about right these organizations and what they're doing and how they're trying to involve the community, the Latino community. It's always good to see because I think it was necessary a long time ago.
Ending on that note, community. You're from Chicago, from Humboldt Park. I mean, Belmont Cragen is your backyard. Mm-hmm. If I ask you to come on in and talk to some of the kids, some of our youth, whether it's at Steinman's or Westinghouse or Clementi, you know, wherever, or maybe your old school, go back. Would you come and talk to the kids?
No, I'm kidding. Of course.
There. You know what? I'm glad he said no. Mocosos. That's what you get.
No, I'd love to. I actually contacted Wells a while back, and I was like, hey, I would love to come back and speak. They never replied, unfortunately.
So that's all. We just touched on that a little bit. We touched on CPS a little bit. That's a whole other topic of conversation. It's tough, man.
You know, it's like if I had somebody go in there when I was a kid, I probably would have had an idea of what I wanted to do.
Man.
Now, no regrets, right? No regrets, like the tattoo.
We're CPS.
But if I had somebody that might have went in there and said, listen, this is something that you could probably do, I would have probably been interested from the moment I was in high school. And I would probably, done more. Again, my path has been amazing, and I've been beyond blessed to be able to do what I do. But if I can provide that to somebody that's at Wells right now or at Clemente, like you mentioned, Westinghouse. I know Westinghouse, they have such a great program of everything that they give, whether it's their workshop, their wood shop, or their mechanics. Yeah. Like I toured that school. Yeah. I went to grammar school at Morton Career Academy, which is down the street. Yeah. They took us there, and I was like, man, this is a school, man.
And today you see that they put a lot of money into it. And one of our a co-mentor of ours, he's a football coach. Okay. He's an assistant football coach for them.
I'm all for it. You tell me, and we're there.
Those youth come to Slam with us on either Monday nights or
Nice.
so the great kids, man. That school is
awesome.
pumping out some very intelligent kids,
Love
man.
it.
And I can't
Love it.
wait to see what the future holds for them.
So you tell me and we're there.
Oh, and before we leave, I gotta get a. You know what? We actually got a hoodie for you.
Oh, hey.
We got a hoodie for you.
Love me a hoodie.
We got a hoodie for
Thank
you.
you
But
so much.
this shirt, don't use it to clean your rims,
No,
okay?
No, not at all. I take it, especially that Chicago flag, man. I'll wear it proud.
Look at that.
That's beautiful.
Man, thank you, bro, for today.
My
if
pleasure.
anybody
Thank
wants to
you.
find you, if anyone wants to just learn from you, where can they find you? I know they can find you on all the games. What are your social media handles?
Miguel's Voice on all platforms.
Miguel's Voice.
Miguel's Voice. TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them.
Why don't you close us out and how, Mike Talk or whatever. Why don't you close us out in Spanish, a ver?
En español.
En español.
Bueno, nada, los dejamos con esto. Gracias a ustedes por haber disfrutado de lo que es el programa Mike Talk. Por supuesto, siempre aquí síganlo a él, síganme a mí. Y por supuesto, no se vayan a despegar de los equipos de Chicago.
There you go, guys. Thank you so much. Miguel and Miguel, eh? Future
There's a group called Miguel y Miguel.
Except I can't sing. I'll be your backup.
Sounds good.
Till
Thanks
next
again
time,
for having me.
everybody. Mike Talk. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all your favorite places that you can find your podcast. All right, guys. Peace out. Till next time. Hey, thanks for joining us. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes like this. And to follow me on other social media handles, click on the link tree in the description. Peace out.